I'm here today with Angel Branco, and she has a very special story to share with us about her September 11th experience. So Angel,
Hi.
first tell me about your major at Rampo.
My major is communication arts with global media and I think it's global media communication and a minor in political science.
Okay, so specifically for you, what makes September 11th so significant?
My dad's a survivor of September 11th. So basically during the day specifically, you want to know my day's events or?
Yeah, so what basically happened that day? Like, how old were you when this whole event happened?
I was in my third grade classroom and basically we weren't really doing anything. It was around 10 o'clock in the morning and my principal walked in and made the announcement that the World Trade Center had been hit in some kind of terrorist attack. And as the 9-year-old know-it-all that I was, I said, phew, thank God it wasn't the Twin Towers. And the teacher aide corrected me. And I literally froze. It was like an emotional roller coaster basically with a million one possibilities of what was happening, and everything like that. And my best friend Anthony stood up and said my dad worked there. So they brought me down to the office and my mom came and picked me up. That whole 9 yards kind of a deal. My mom also had a big fight with this district after that because they announced it. So
that must have been really tough for you to find that out at such a young age. You probably must have had a range of emotions. You don't even know what to think, especially being so young.
It's the possibility of someone dying or losing someone that close to you is just, it's a lot. And I've been through experiences like that too, where you lost someone very, very close to you. And experiencing that, not even in double digits yet, I feel like that was more intimidating. It was more scary for me to kind of feel the rush of death so young.
So how did you handle that situation at the time?
At the time, there really, September 11th after me leaving school was a big blur to me because I don't really remember my dad coming home. I don't remember anything really after that. Currently, I've been going to trauma counseling for it, kind of figuring out, what needs to be done for me, what kind of, steps I need to take in order to deal with the trauma and deal with, the things that did happen and talk about it openly.
Okay. So, do you know anyone personally that day that had lost their life or a family member of someone you knew that lost their life?
Yes, my dad's 3 coworkers. He worked for Thompson Baseline Financial, and there were 5 people on the 78th floor of the South Tower. So it was Brian Branco, Miles, Jill Maurer Campbell now, Robert Levine, and Steve Weinberg. Jill, Robert, and Steve all died that day. And we're very, very close with Jill's family specifically.
Okay. So, with that situation happening to you, how do you carry it in your everyday life? And do you think it makes you a stronger person, or it makes you more worried about how precious life really is?
I think it depends on how you look at it with how precious life really is. I feel like some people deal with grief differently. So I feel like it makes me personally stronger because it brought my family closer together, even though it was a really traumatic, really detrimental event. Personally, in our day-to-day lives, my parents volunteer a lot, so it's always coming back up in conversations or, stuff will be up on the news about the site, and, it's always coming up in conversation, so I have to learn being young to kind of not deal with it, but that's the best way I can put it, and put my grievances aside and basically learn how to kind of put up with it in normal conversations and share my story if it's appropriate.
Okay. So when that day comes, September 11th, do you think something can tragically happen again? Do you fear it? What are your emotions when it comes to that day every year?
I don't fear it anymore. I used to. I feel like if something's going to happen, it's going to happen regardless. I mean, I feel like I need to be living my life because other people didn't get to. And that, it kind of gives me the strength to say, I'm lucky to have my dad here. I'm lucky to be here. We're going to take every day, one step at a time, and just going to make it stronger.
So obviously this is a very important subject for you since it affected you so personally.
Mm-hmm.
Do you volunteer in any way to give back to the September 11th?
I'm not allowed to volunteer at the World Trade Center Tribute Center right now because I live here, so I would want to volunteer there eventually. But I did organize two September 11th balloon releases. I organized one back in 2006 for the 5-year Day of Remembrance, and back in 2011 for the 10-year Day of Remembrance. For the first September 11th balloon release, it was smaller. We raised $4,000 and donated $1,000 after expenses, $500 to the Survivors Network, and then $500 to the 9/11 Families Association. This past time, we raised $7,000 because we had a lot more community support. We had a lot more drive for it because it was the 10-year Day of Remembrance. And after expenses, we donated a little under $4,000 to the World Trade Center Tribute Center. And we were the first, that was the first big donation that they've gotten to buy their new headsets for the site, because they weren't allowed to use like big microphones or anything on the site.
Well, congratulations on what you've accomplished so far. That's great. It really is. So, is there any advice that you can give to anyone else currently dealing with life-altering situations at such a young age?
You know, always talking to someone. I feel like counseling really has helped me deal with it, but it's not for everyone. I personally think that you should try, like, not putting up with it, but like trying to like face it. You know, there's always that grieving period and stuff like that. But don't let it consume your life. Don't be afraid to live, and don't be afraid to, you know, just let it consume your life, because in all seriousness, like, life's so short, so you never know when your time's up.
All right. Well, thank you, Angel, for speaking to us. It's been a great conversation, and I hope you have the best of luck in your rest of your volunteer experiences. And, well, thanks for listening, everyone.